Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 7th of September, 2015. This is episode 145, and I haven't thought of a title yet. So I'll put that here, and you will have seen it at the beginning. So you already know what it is, and I don't yet. I don't think that's ever happened before. I think all of my previous episodes have some sort of title. I don't know. Oh, I'm distracted today because it is Labor Day in the United States, and that means that kids don't have school, so Gabriel is home and Steve doesn't work, so everybody's home and in the house and being noisy and all things. So I'm highly distracted today. I apologize about that. Let's see. We have the Finisher Frogget Craft Along. It's officially started. It is going on, and you guys are amazing. I have really enjoyed everybody posting their beginning of the knit along shot. This is an optional thing. You don't have to do it, but a lot of people have gathered up their whips and taken pictures of all of their whips, and I really am interested to see, I'm hoping at the end of the knit along, people will take anything that they didn't finish and group it in together and have a shot of that, so we can see how much smaller the piles are, because my picture is in the thread, and realistically I'm not going to finish all the things on there. No way am I spinning all those spinning projects, for example. But I would like to see a much smaller grouping on my blanket at the end of the knit along. Anyway, you guys are doing amazing. I haven't talked in there in a few days, but I have looked at the posts, and today I will be typing all the responses. So by the time this is up, it will have already happened. I don't even know why I'm telling you, mostly because I'm babbling. The tag for that is BPHFOF15 for Bunnyfish Finisher Frog 2015. BPHFOF15. And anything that is finished between September 1st and November 30th counts. All the guidelines and rules are in both the chatter and the finished objects thread, and at least one of those is linked in the show notes. So if you have any questions, feel free to PM me. I'm not really great about getting back to people in a day, but within a week. It's usually less than a week. Or you can ask in the chatter thread, or yeah, it's in a thread that is not the finished objects thread. Ask questions. I have finished objects this week. I'm super excited. I could have had another one, but I only have two, but I'm okay with it. The first is the regular stripe socks. So this one was finished last week, and this one was almost finished. This is my first Finisher Frog entry. So this is where I was. I did this last color stripe bound off. They are blocked, and you can tell that they are mirrored. This pattern has irregular chevrons. It is a free pattern by Emma Julie, and it's maybe people don't know how chevrons are made. I'm going to assume that there's someone out there who doesn't know how chevrons are made. So the way it goes is for this particular sock, you knit one, make one, and then you knit so many stitches, and then you do a decrease that decreases 3 stitches into 1 stitch, and then you knit that same number of stitches that you knit before the decrease after the decrease. You make an increase, knit 1. So that's the pattern repeat. And in between each set of knit ones on this is a different stitch number. So there's sections of 4, 2, and 1 knitting in between the increases and decreases. So it gives it this really cool broken up look, which I really, really enjoyed knitting. I definitely think that I would have enjoyed a regular chevron pattern less knitting wise, but this one, because it changed it up every chevron piece, every chunk, whatever, I think you know what I'm trying to say. It was really interesting, and I did this mostly in 2-round increments in between working on other projects. I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to do 2 rounds. And it went like that, super fast. And then when I was like, oh, I'll just knit a stripe, again, super fast. I don't usually have those moments where I'm like, oh, I'll just knit to the end of the stripe. A lot of people have that with self-striping yarn. I don't really have that, but with this I did. And I think it was because of the irregular stripe patterns. The yarn is Penguin Soup Fairy Sock, so it's got a little sparkle to it. Don't know if you can see that. I think you can see it in that pink, the bottom pink stripe. It is the Wild Style colorway. All of the socks that you will see today are knit on US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needles. It is the needle size that I liked the gauge on, so that's what I use. Your needle sizes may vary. So it's always about gauge, it's not about needle size, but needle size 1s are the ones that I use to get the gauge that I like. When I started knitting socks, I knit on size 2, 2.75 millimeters. US ones are 2.25 millimeter needles. But then my gauge loosened up as I started getting more comfortable knitting socks. So that's why they're on a size 1. The other finished object is a very wet finished object because I finished these socks last night and put them in to soak and then laid them flat to dry, and they were just in the bathroom, not in front of a fan or anything, so they are still very, very damp. These are which side do I want to be on? This side. These are the Thank You Sarah socks by Heidi Nick, and I am not going to take them off the blocker. You'll just have to look at them like that. And I'm distorting the pattern by holding it, whatever. You can get the idea. They are so beautiful. There is a couple different cable patterns in there, twisted stitches. There are textured pieces, really, really lovely socks. Once I split them off to knit one at a time, they went so much faster. And I did a lot of work on them this week. So I did the toe of this sock, so from this little zombie guy down, last Monday night after I finished recording the podcast. And then I did from here all the way down this week. Needless to say, this has taken up most of my knitting time this week because I really wanted to get these socks done. They were just staring at me and I felt guilty for not having them finished last month. So they're now finished. The yarn is Leading Man Fiber Arts in Sprightly Endeavor. The color is a little bit off because it's still damp, but it's pretty close to the color that you would see if you went into their shop. I really enjoyed the pattern, the yarn, great stuff. I'm really happy with both of my finished objects this week. And now for the object that could have been finished had I worked on it just a little bit more. These are the child tube socks. It's my pattern recipe. And I did open the file this week and put in a table, but I did not fill out all the numbers. So I am working on that. So don't yell at me this week. Maybe next week you'll have permission. Anyway, this is the second sock. This is where it was last week, and I have done all of this. I have been working on this as I've been walking on the elliptical or with Mara, and I did not do that yesterday. It was a very busy day doing other things. So if I had done it yesterday, I would be finished because I am right here. I have this light gray starting, so this light gray stripe and then this red light gray bind off in black. Another day of walking and I would have been finished. So this will be finished next week. The yarn is 716 knit, 716 sock, and this little thing right here, this HXC, is designating that it's self-striping. And it is the colorway Television Counts as a Place, which was one of the Daria Club colorways. And this is my last skein from that club. This is the last skein of that. I used all 3 of the Daria colorways to make socks for my sister's kids for Christmas this year. So this is the last of her children to have socks made. Last of her children, period. So I'm almost done with knitting her kids' Christmas socks. I'm not done knitting kids' Christmas socks. My 2 have theirs, and Amanda's has hers, but I have one more. So chat for a minute and aside, I was going to make socks for Steve's sister's children. She got married last year, and her husband had 2 children from a previous marriage, so they're her kids. And she's the primary, I don't know how to say this correctly. So he has custody for most of the time. He's the primary custodial parent, but he's in the military, so he's gone pretty frequently. So she actually takes care of them all the time. It doesn't matter. Moms don't need to have their kids to be moms or whatever. But anyway, that's the situation. And I was going to make them socks, but they live in Alabama. They just moved from Texas to Alabama, and I'm like, I don't know how much use they would actually get out of socks. And also, I don't really know the kids that well. I've only met them one time, and that was when we were up in Ohio for a weekend for the wedding. So I don't even know if they'd be interested in that. So I've decided that I am going to instead make them slippers, which I haven't started yet. So I don't know why I'm going on this big ramble, but I am. I'm going to make them slippers. I'm going to use the slippers that Megan Williams translated from Susan Busby's grandma into a pattern. I don't remember what it's called, but I'll be talking about it in the next few weeks, so it doesn't matter. But the reason why I'm even talking about it is because that does change some of the things that were on my finisher frog blanket, because I was going to make them pairs of socks and I had pulled out yarn as placeholders for that. So now I'm going to make slippers instead of tube socks. Whatever. So the nice thing about Finisher Frog is that it's fluid. You can add anything to your projects at any time or change things, whatever. I think that's why I was rambling about it, so I could tell you all that. Anyway, I worked on some other things. Let's have some more knitting instead of some more rambling. I started the next part that I am knitting on the Frankensteak socks, which is by the Sarina Socks. And this is hand-dyed yarn from Lorraine. This is Claire's colorway, and it doesn't look like much, but there's a piece of the sock called the ace bandage, which goes kind of around the heel area and up over the front of the foot. Let's see if I can show this off without being too awkward. It's like this area and this area. So right as you would wrap an ace bandage around your foot. So that is what I'm working on right now. I'm not exactly sure how it works out at the end, but that's where this piece goes. And I'm not very far in it. I think that I have maybe 5 rounds out of the 20 rounds that I need to do. I'm not that worried about it though, because Claire didn't finish the part that she was going to finish this week. She's been really busy, whatever. So Lorraine doesn't even have yarn to start her 3rd part. So I'm actually ahead of the game, even though I'm kind of slacking. I started a lot of new things. Yes, those are all the things that you've seen before. Just making sure. Started a lot of new things and then set them aside so I could finish these socks. But it was the beginning of the month, and you know how I feel about starting things at the beginning of the month. So I started The Coat of Many Colors, which is from the Knit Swirl book, which I have out from the library by Sandra McIver, and it's actually the cover sweater. I will be making that, although not that exactly, because this pattern actually calls for 9 different colorways of a yarn, and then it gives you a striping sequence to translate from one to the next, which is a cool idea, but that's not what I had in my stash. What I had in my stash is this lovely Knit Picks Swish in the Canopy tonal colorway. So I had that, and I liked the shape and the lay of this one because in this book there are 4 different silhouettes. So there is a centered circle, an off-centered circle, a centered oval, and an off-centered oval. And this one is an off-centered oval. And that's what I liked the best. So this book has a bunch of patterns in those 4 silhouettes in different yarn weights. So I picked the silhouette that I liked and in the yarn weight that I wanted and went with that. So I'm not striping, I'm just using the instructions for the welts and whatnot. This sweater, for my size, has 58 welts, I believe. And I have finished the first one and I'm on the second one. So that's a little intimidating. But you start on the outside edge of this. So you start by casting on a bajillion stitches for this outline part. And the welts get smaller as you go. So I'm not too worried about not having made much progress. Also, I didn't work on it very much. There is this, I don't know if you can see in this photo, there's a fringe detail right by the hand over here, which I will not be doing because I'm not a fringe person. But otherwise, I love this sweater. And I think it's a really cool concept if I had single skeins of worsted weight yarn sitting around, but I don't, because I don't buy worsted weight yarn a lot. And I don't have a lot to say about how this pattern is constructed, although I'm really excited to be making a knit swirl because I've been planning on it for over a year. So I'm really excited. And it looks like this. I have 1 welt, and then started the second one. And this particular one is worked in reverse stockinette and stockinette, which I don't know if they all are. I didn't look at any of the other patterns, honestly. But I am not working reverse stockinette because that's a lot of purling. I don't have a problem purling if it's interspersed with knitting, but I also don't want to purl for a single welt. That would be almost 3,000 stitches purled, one right after the other. So I'm doing the wrap and turn, turning the work, and then just knitting all the time. That's what I'm doing. Hopefully it'll be fine. And if not, it's a sweater. If I hate it, I'll rip the entire thing out and just reuse the yarn for something else. It's a lot of knitting per round right now. I work a round and I feel like I've done nothing because it's a bajillion stitches, but it'll get easier. I also cast on a cowl for my mom. This is going to be her Christmas present. I am holding this yarn, which I've lost the tag for. It's a baby yarn and it's in German. It's in my stash page on Ravelry. So it's fingering weight. It's 100% wool, no nylon. I'm pretty sure it's superwash. I don't remember. I think it is though. It's reds and pinks. I think, yeah, that's a pretty decent representation. It's more red than pink. That's showing up really pink on my screen, but it always changes in editing. So hopefully it's showing up mostly red with just pops of pink. And the pattern that I'm using is Scaling the Stronghold, which is my pattern. I just barely started it. It's the pattern that I designed for the Divergent Club second month. It's really, really fast and easy, and I expect this to mostly fly off the needles once I actually work on it. Funny thing, when you don't pick up the knitting, nothing happens. So that's where I am with that. I also cast on my last sample for this round for Leading Men Fiber Arts. This pattern is Expanded Community by Megan Williams. If you are thinking that this pattern looks familiar, I knit it in June when I was making Josh's socks using the Peyton's Croy socks. So it's that same pattern, except I'll be following it to pattern and putting in the heel because it's a sample. So I won't be using a Fish Lips Kiss. I'll be using I think it's got an OMG or a Spacious OMG. It would be one of those two in the pattern. This colorway is so pretty. So there you can see it without the girder stitch blending it. This is the Glacial colorway, and I am in lust with it. It might become love, but right now it's just lust. It's super pretty. The pattern is super easy and well written. So I'm enjoying that. And this is going to be my focus project for the week, because I would really like to get the samples out to Steve and Andy very quickly so they can have them, because, you know, they're their samples and that would be helpful for them, I'm sure, to have the samples that they're requested in their booths instead of sitting around my house. But that should go really fast because I've already knit the pattern, and it's a pretty easy pattern. The last thing that I started, that will be the socks. I misspoke. They will be my focus project as soon as I get this project done. Gabriel's birthday is on Thursday, and a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, he asked me if I would make him a red dragon. Not for his birthday, just if I would make him a red dragon. I said, yeah, of course. Well, his birthday's coming, so I'm going to make him a red dragon for his birthday. And I started it last night. I didn't start it previous to that because I didn't have any red yarn in my stash. So yesterday I went to Joann's. You remember that chunky hat that I made for someone at work using the Premier Chunky in the Stormy colorway, the blue and brown? Well, I bought 2 balls of that when I was making the hat because I wasn't sure if it was going to need 1 ball or 2, but it only needed 1. So I returned that other ball. I don't think that I've ever returned yarn to Joann's before. I just don't usually, return yarn. I usually am just like, it's fine, I can sit in my stash if I don't use it, if I buy an extra ball or something. But I returned it, and that was a new experience for me because it's not yarn that I'm going to use with any immediacy, and it's in a weight that I don't usually use, so why would I keep it? Anyway, I returned that and got this instead so that I could make the dragon for Gabriel, and this will also work for the slippers that I'm making for Steve's sister's kids, because one of them said his favorite color is red, and I didn't have any red acrylic in my stash at all. That's not true. I had a ball about this big, not big enough to make anything with. Anyway, the dragon that I'm going to be making, back to this. The dragon that I'm going to be making is the Dragon Amigurumi by Rachel Rodriguez. I have made the pattern before. I made it probably 2 years ago. Made a little orange dragon with yellow pieces. This one's going to be red, and I have black sparkly yarn because the parts on the wings in between, like where the bones are, kind of for structure, that is made in a different color, so I'll be using the black sparkly in there because I think that'll be cool for a dragon. Red Heart Super Saver, Cherry Red. I'm using USG hook. I have 2 G hooks, and one of them is a 4.0 millimeter. That's this one, and the other is a 4.25 millimeter hook. So I guess buyer beware that your G hooks might be different sizes. I don't know if one is standard and the other is not, but I am using this one, first of all, because it's got this handle, which makes it much more comfortable to work on. But second of all, because it's that 0.25 millimeters smaller, which means it'll be just a little bit tighter for the dragon. I don't know if there was a recommended hook size, but I couldn't find my F hook, which is my normal toy with Red Heart hook, so I went up to a G, and I think it'll be fine. I did some spinning, not as much as I like to, but I spun on Merla, and I spun on the Eventide. I also made some hexapuffs. I'm counting it as 4 because I have 2 that are still on the needle but just need to be stuffed in Kitchener. So this is all Haley yarn this week, and I think that this yarn is probably what she knit the sockhead hat for me out of last year for Christmas. And this lovely stripy yarn, I have this gorgeous yarn, and I made a celebratory hexapuff because I knew that I was, or because I had finished the regular stripe socks at the beginning of the week. So I made one celebratory hexapuff, and I will be making more celebratory hexapuffs today for the 2 projects that will be the Thank You Sarah socks and the child tube socks, which should be finished today. I also am counting this as finished. This is Barn Racing Square number 39. I just attached the black for the border, so I have to do 1 round in black and then the bind off. So I'm counting this as finished. Super pretty. Really, really like this colorway. Not as much modular knitting as I would have liked to do, but you know, at least I did some this week. So much better than last week where I did none. I am reading, I'll tell you what I'm reading in a minute. I'm going to tell you something that we read this week, and it's super cute. This is called Knit Together by Angela Dominguez, and it is a story about a mom who knits and a daughter who draws, and the daughter can't knit and the mom can't draw, but they work together to make a very special collaborative project. And it's really, really cute. My kids and I read it and they enjoyed it, and we'll probably read it again today before I take it back to the library tomorrow, because Tuesday is our library day. And what I am reading is The Exiled Queen by Cinda Williams Chima, and this is the 2nd book in the Seven Realms novel. I am that far into it. Can't tell. It's folded over. That far into it. I'm enjoying it so far. I enjoyed the first one a lot. This one is not letting me down. Really good read. Very interesting. I'm looking for my phone. That is what I am looking around for. It's on my desk because I have a new thing that I want to tell you about. But anyway, the Seven Realms series so far is reminding me of epic fantasy like Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time. I put the books on top of my phone. That's why I couldn't find it. But with a young adult audience in mind. So less of the outright grotesque, and I don't think there's been any sex involved at all. I mean, clearly some attraction, but I don't think anything further than kissing has happened. I may have blocked it out of my mind though. That happens sometimes. So my new thing is my friend RJ gifted me this pattern, which is Volturi's Palace. Oh, can you not see? I don't think you can see. By Rachel Coopy. Nope, it's not going to work. Well, I'll just tell you about the pattern then. Obviously, it has color work. You could see that, the blue and white. And it also has cables and texture and super pretty. And I'm looking forward to casting those on someday. My immediate queue is pretty full, so I am not 100% sure when that will be cast on. But it was such a nice surprise to wake up and see that I had a Revelry pattern. Totally made my day. It was very, very lovely, and I'm looking forward to those. I've already said that. Wow, this is a really short episode this week. I don't think there's anything that I forgot. Just to be sure, did I say that the Phoenix hat drawing is next week at the beginning of the episode? I can't remember. It's written in my show notes, but I may have forgotten. So that's happening next week. If you're interested in having the Phoenix hat, I'm drawing for 2 winners. Just post on YouTube or in the episode thread for this or last week that you are interested. If you want more information about it, go watch last week's episode when I start talking about new things, and you'll have more information. Well, I guess I'm gonna stop and go knit on things. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye.